This time on Holy Ghost Notes.
Please don't make fun of me.
So I look like Tiger King.
Dude, it's like, is he sitting or is he standing? I don't know.
Why can't you do that?
Why can't you do this?
I'm just not as good at drums as you guys.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That I.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Welcome to the Holy Ghost Notes podcast. My name's Tim Anderson.
That was good.
And Matt Greiner. How are you doing, my friend?
Is that for real?
Yeah, let's just go with that.
Nice. I like that. Okay, I thought that was a test run. I'm doing well. I like how excited you are for vacation. I can hear
I
it.
can hear it in my voice.
I can hear it. It is tangible.
Yes. Is it contagious?
No.
No.
Not everything is contagious. Definitely vacation is one of those things that is not contagious. I'm not going on vacation next week.
Well, I'm going on vacation to the Outer Banks in North Carolina, and there's something else that's very contagious down there, so I am hoping I don't catch that.
Yeah.
No. But enough COVID talk. I don't want to hear or talk about that anymore.
2 seconds is too much. Yes.
So what's new with you, my friend? How are you doing?
Oh, man. I'm doing good. I am, like I said, I'm not going on vacation, but being home is really nice. Honestly, as we've talked about, I haven't been home this much in a long time.
Yeah.
Augustman's Red's been so busy. We've been really fortunate to be this busy for so long. And I think we're going on 7 months now. No touring. I mean, we did 3 shows on the Killswitch tour,
Right.
and then we went home, but that doesn't really count. So I've been able to find some stability and structure and get into a routine. I'm the kind of person that likes routine, and I like structure. I like setting my alarm clock the same every single night, except for Holy Ghost Notes nights.
Yeah.
When we go into the wee hours. Case
true.
in point.
Yeah.
Right now.
Right now.
But yeah, I'm doing really well. Farming's going actually really well this year. We've gotten a lot of rain recently, and so corn is about to be in tassel.
Okay.
It's an exciting week for farmers in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
And then drumming's a lot of fun. I've enjoyed this business model of subscription-based Netflix of drum lessons, $10 a month, creating content, contests, building a community.
Yeah.
It's been very rewarding. It's been a lot of work. You don't really think about how much work it's going to be until you get into it, and you keep thinking of different ways that you can make it a better experience for drummers who are signed up. But I like that kind of stuff because it all revolves around the thing that I like, which is drumming and teaching.
That's great.
You know?
Yeah. And you just recorded some new songs with ABR as well, right? Got into the studio
I did.
again?
I can't talk about what they are, but I recorded 3 songs with the band, and I'm writing right now for I'll be recording again this year.
Nice.
Actually. So the band is not touring, but we're taking this time to find ways to be creative and use, this downtime to benefit us months, years down the road, new material, and just sort of setting us up for the future when things return to normal.
That's great.
Or a sense of normal.
Yeah.
Sense of normalcy.
That's great. That's awesome. And I think if there's one thing that at least the smart people are doing during this whole thing, I'm sorry if you're not trying to call you out, but there's a lot of innovation happening, a lot of people picking up new hobbies or teaching themselves new skills, getting things done. I think it's wise to see a time like this not as a burden or as something that we should just wallow in self-pity, but rather take this, embrace it, and make the best of it. And I think there's a lot of people coming up with new ideas, and I've never been advertised masks more in my entire life. How many new mask companies are out there? Who took up sewing during this time and started making a profit, So, but there's a lot of people that are seeing this as a time to do something with their time and make the best of it. Year one, with Matt Greiner lessons, you're killing it with your time. So
I'm trying.
Yeah.
I'm doing as much as I can with the time I have, for sure. But it's also what I enjoy.
Yeah.
It's not. I don't see being home as like a disadvantage, you know. And I feel for the guys who, understandably, really just struggle being at home when there's just not a whole lot to do.
Yeah.
I'm fortunate to have a lot on my plate at home and to be able to create opportunities. So I feel really blessed to have that opportunity. And we'll see. I mean, 2020 looks like it's just a big question mark. And I'm not approaching that question mark with this sense of like wait and see. I'm looking at it as, okay, question mark equals opportunity.
Yeah.
And until that question mark turns into an itinerary and a tour schedule and something more definitive as it pertains to the band, I'm just going to keep trying to get better at drums and continue educating people and trying to make the most out of it.
Yeah. That's great, dude. And of course, I mean, during this time too, I mean, at least we know, we're still going to be doing this podcast. We have no problem social distancing. And
I wish we didn't have to social distance.
I wish we didn't have
on this
to.
podcast.
I wish we didn't have to, but
I wish we could do it in the same room. It'd be nice. But Zoom is a nice feature. It's weird though, isn't it, that we didn't really do the podcast recording on Zoom until we realized Zoom was a thing,
which happened because of all this going on.
We're like, oh wait, we should use Zoom just like everybody else is.
Yeah, that's true. And I think too, like a lot of the guests that we've had come on the show, we might not have considered had we not all been in the same exact place of staying home and not touring, or
Absolutely.
So it's interesting how even this podcast has kind of manifested from all this. But speaking of, we just released Aaron's episode. By the time this episode actually comes out, it'll have been a couple weeks, but because I'm leaving for vacation, we're rushing a couple episodes. But we just had Aaron's episode, and for those of you who noticed, I probably sounded like I was talking through a phone. I apologize.
Why was that, Tim?
Why was that? Well, we went through, so this is why, kids, you need to always do a mic check. And by a mic check, I don't just mean check your level. I mean like record for a minute, go back and listen to it, make sure it sounds good. Because I found out after recording our interview with Aaron Spears and then the intro and outro pieces that my mic cable was going bad. And that's no bueno. I had to mix out most of the frequencies that make my voice sound like a voice, and because of the buzzing. So I'm sorry for the terrible audio quality. Hopefully most of you didn't notice it, but yeah, that's why it sounded a little different, a little more nasally and distorted and annoying. But hey, it happens. Usually the best episodes are the ones that something goes wrong. In fact, before we even started recording, your stand broke. I think
fell apart, hit the ground. We're like, this is going to be a good episode.
This is going to be a great episode, and sure enough,
not even facetiously, like, no, this is actually going to be a good episode.
Yeah.
It always is.
Yeah. Yep. And if you haven't listened to it, go listen to, after you're done with this episode, go back and listen to Aaron Spears' episode, because that was a good one. It's a great conversation. So, but we've got a really good one for you today. We were just, before we started recording, we were just talking about how I am 3 drummers into my top 5 drummers now. I don't know if you guys listened to the episode where we listed our top 5, but I've hit Ash Stone, Aaron Spears, and you're about to hear Jonathan Thomas. And for those of you that don't know Jonathan Thomas, he is a great dude, great drummer, and he is probably most known for his work with Ascend the Hill, which was a kind of an indie worship band that toured around a lot. They were signed to a label called Come and Live, which was, I guess, kind of an arm off of Tooth and Nail for a little bit. Chad Johnson started that label. And so, yeah, we had a great conversation. I'm not going to talk too much about it because I want you guys to hear it for yourself. But, yeah, it was a good one.
Jonathan Thomas is a special guy. I mean, we knew that before, but this is an episode where you're going to hear him speak candidly about his faith, his approach to drumming, and I think you'll really enjoy it.
Yeah. And I just want to throw this in here before we get into the interview. When I reached out to Jonathan to have him on the show, his response was, "Wow, really?" Which is probably possibly the only guest that will ever say that when asked to be on the show. But he's just such a humble dude. And if you haven't heard him play, go check out Ascend the Hill and go check him out on Instagram, Jonathan Thomas Drums. And yeah, man, I don't want to delay it anymore because these guys got to hear this interview. It's awesome. So here he is.
Enjoy.
Jonathan Thomas.
Take it away.
Take it away. Hey guys, we have a very special guest here. He is probably an even better dude than he is a drummer, but very pleased to have Jonathan Thomas, one of my top 5 favorite drummers, if you guys remember from an earlier episode.
I remember.
Yeah, been waiting to have this guy on for a while. Welcome, dude. What's going on? What's new with you?
Man, it's great to be here. I appreciate the call and having me on. Like I said earlier, I was completely blown away, dude, when you slid into my DMs with that question.
Yes,
that's what they say these days.
That's what they say.
Yeah, that's what the kids are saying.
Yeah. But
yeah, we have to stay relevant. You know?
But doing good. I'm in Tampa, Florida. It's like 93 degrees, and it's awful. It was a beautiful day today. So me and my wife, we decided to do our taxes.
Oh.
So, yeah, to celebrate, to enjoy the day. We did our taxes. So that's
right.
I'm a little mentally out of it.
Oh man,
I've been staring at a computer screen.
Dude, you need this interview. This is therapy.
Yeah.
This is true. Yes.
Like
agreed,
you need this
agreed.
interview. The listeners don't need you. You need this more than anything right now.
100%.
Wait, isn't July 15th tax day?
Yeah.
Is that?
That's Wednesday.
I believe so. Yeah, it's Wednesday.
man.
By the
Yep.
time you're
Yeah.
listening to this, that is in the past. If you're still
I
waiting to
may
do
or
your
may-
taxes, sorry.
If you're listening,
Right.
it's like, oh shit, I forgot to do my taxes.
Right.
I should do them. You already missed it. It's
Yes.
too late.
Yeah, it's too late.
You're
Watch
too late.
out.
Yeah.
They're coming
Yeah.
after you.
That's great. Well, how are you
That's
guys
cool,
doing?
man. We're doing great. I'm doing great. I can't speak for Matt.
You can.
Matt's been over here doing Trump impressions, so if that's any indication.
Surprisingly good. Surprisingly good.
Yeah,
Surprisingly good.
Surprisingly. I'm doing well, man. I started a podcast so that I could talk and rekindle friendships with old friends that I haven't talked to in over a decade. And this interview is included and not limited to that. So thank you so much for coming on our show. It's awesome to have
Yeah.
you. And
Dude, I'm happy to be here.
I haven't
Yeah.
talked to you in forever, so we have a lot to catch up on.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
man, it's great to have you on here. The last time I saw you was on tour, and I was just telling Tim we used to tour a lot with a band called Life in Your Way. And
Yes.
do you remember James?
Yeah,
All right,
Alan.
James Allen. So I was just
Yes.
telling Tim that James Allen used to talk to me about how I need to watch you play drums, and he's like, "Listen, my favorite drummers are Jonathan Thomas and you." And I'm like, "All right." Guess who was standing there when he said that? His drummer.
Oh, that's amazing.
Man.
That sounds like James. That sounds like James.
It's not okay, but it's James.
It's a James
so it's
move, yeah,
completely
yeah.
acceptable. So James Allen, if you're listening to this, we still remember that. I'm sure your drummer does too. Man, that's just
That's awesome. James, good people, man.
Those are good memories. So
Yeah.
thanks so much for
funny.
coming on. It's going to be fun to catch up.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. I appreciate you. I actually just rewatched your Zildjian Live thing, man.
Oh, nice.
My gosh, freaking destroying it.
You're talking about Sput right now, and every member of Ghost Note.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. We'll give credit where credit's due there, but dude, you killed it.
Thank you.
Killed it.
That was so much fun. I loved it. I loved
yeah,
it.
dude. And just
Yeah.
I mean, was that all shot in a day? Like, just everybody kind of went back to back, or how did that?
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah, that was
Okay.
shot, dude. That was shot in like 20. As long as the song takes to play,
right.
that's how. What is it, like a 8-minute, 6-minute song, something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, we shot it. We did one take. The rehearsal was the day before, so I
awesome.
went out there like fully prepared. I mean, you know what it's like playing with dudes like that when you're playing with the upper echelon of musicians.
Yeah.
You don't go in. I don't go into stuff like that not prepared.
No. Yeah.
And I also know that culture thrives on like improving, and I don't. I think you're a little bit more like that. I think you have the ability to do that, but that's not my moment. So I went out there fully prepared, knowing other drummers had never even played the songs that Sput said them. And so I wanted
Wow.
to leave as much time for them as possible so I wasn't getting in their way. And so we did the run through on Monday, the rehearsal, and Sput finished the song, and Sput's like, "All right, that was fun.
All right.
Let's do it
There it is."
again."
Yeah.
You
That's
know?
great, man.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks a lot. I
Yeah,
appreciate
so
that.
good. So good.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. So we met. I don't even know if you remember this, but we met back in the Ascend the Hill days. It was actually a backyard show in my area, New Jersey. I don't know if you remember
that
the Nusser's
Peach's house? Yeah.
It was, yeah, Peach was living there. Yep.
Okay.
And so that was the first time I met you in person. And then I felt like, well, it was you. I think you guys were on tour with another band, Jedediah's band.
Ember Days.
Ember Days. That's right.
Yeah.
You guys were on tour with them for a while, and then we just kept running into each other. Like everywhere we went for the next 2 months, because I was doing stuff for Brick by Brick, which was a ministry that Matt and I put together. And then so we were at Purple Door, and then you guys were at Purple Door, and I think you guys came to a Sunday morning service at my church. So I ran into you guys there, and it was like one of those weird, like, are you stalking me type deals, you know? But man, I was so blown away. It was the first time I saw you play live, and pretty much since then, you've been one of my favorite drummers. You were just pulling stuff out that was beyond what I could comprehend at the time, but so tasteful and so much, like, it was giving the song exactly what it needed. And
Thank you, man.
So I know you, Matt knows you, our listeners might not. So tell us a little bit about you, about your drum journey, about what you're up to now.
Okay.
Take it away,
Well, like most guys that you talk to, I started playing at church, you know, when I was 13. Went to a youth camp, and a guy was I've always banged on stuff, you know, and even being in church and standing up on the pews, remember pews? like I would just be beating on them to the music, not really knowing what I was doing, but you know, the rhythm was there. And it took off from there, and did drumline in high school, studied some jazz at a few different universities, and I say a few different because I just never finished at any one of them, you know. School wasn't my thing, but anyways, so yeah, man, and just started gigging, and did the cover scene here, and really got. I linked up with this gospel worship leader at a church, and the band there, the two of the members, Peter Mungaya, who's a guitar player, and Sam Martinez, a bass player, kind of really took me under their wing. And dude, I honestly learned more from them on just, being in the moment and listening and how to react musically and all that musicianship type of stuff. I learned more from them than all the various semesters at school,
Right.
Yeah. So, let's see. Did the gigs. Actually, how I got involved with Ascend the Hill was a mutual friend of Joel, the lead singer. He was doing, there was a big revival down here in Lakeland, Florida, not too far away. And Joel was doing some of the services. He needed a drummer. And so the mutual friend connected us. And I started playing with them for just these services before it was anything, and it just felt good. It felt right. And Joel booked a conference up in the Northeast somewhere, and I was in a cover band at the time that it was like impossible to get a sub for. They were just like, this music is rehearsed.
Yeah.
You can't. We can't not have you. So if we have a gig, this is where your commitments are. Mm-hmm. And Joel was like, dude, if you want, we have this 2-week run, because he planned a trip on the way up and then, some shows on the way back. I was like, if this is a God thing, I'm going to make this call right now. And the manager's going to let me go. And I called and kind of phrased it like, hey, I'm going to need 2 weeks off, a month from now. And he was like, yeah, cool, whatever. Just, find me a guy, fill in, and we'll be good. And I hang up the phone. I'm just like, oh my gosh, and that was kind of the start of Ascend the Hill and that part of the journey,
Yeah.
And,
That's awesome.
So
yeah, man.
Talking to you brings back so many memories. There's one memory I have of being on tour with Life in Your Way, and we were playing in this venue. I have no idea where it was, but I remember watching you play, and then afterwards we were hanging out. Man, it's over a decade ago. Feels like forever.
Yeah,
but it makes me think about the style of music that Ascend the Hill performed and played at a high level. And as I was thinking about this interview this morning, I was thinking, what is it that Ascend the Hill did differently? We had seen a lot of bands on tour over the years, and Ascend the Hill is one of those bands that just sort of stands out a decade later. And so I started thinking about this. The guy I started August Burns Red with, he played bass. His name's Jordan. And I remember being on the farm and Jordan saying to me, you know what, dude? We should start a church. And the music, the worship music for the church should be hardcore, like heavy metal. We should actually have heavy metal. Right. He didn't say heavy metal. I'm saying that, but he said hardcore. Yeah. Hardcore, screaming, like full-blown, take a worship song and make it heavy. And we both kind of laughed about it, like, that would never happen. Right. And of course, it's far-fetched. Obviously, it's a far-fetched idea. But Ascend the Hill did do worship differently than the status quo. What's your take on worship today, and where do you think it needs growth and improvement based on the concept of worship, how it is today, how it's been for a while, how it's progressing, and the trajectory that it's on? Obviously, Ascend the Hill was doing something over a decade ago that was different. Mm-hmm. So where do you think worship is today, and where do you think it needs to maybe take some notes from other genres or from some other ideas in seeing growth and creative potential and improvement?
Dude, what a question. My goodness. I mean, that could be the whole conversation in and of itself.
I was just going to say, let's just talk about that for the rest of the episode.
Yeah,
right?
dude.
Well,
I'll just jump off. Yeah. I'll just say some things that are off the top of my head, but because man, I've been thinking about this honestly in my own life and journey, just like so some of it's fresh and some of it's not well thought out. So
That's okay.
for what that's worth, I don't really like listening to much worship music these days. But I guess I go through, like, to use that word, seasons of where I need something. I need that synth pad laid down. Like, yeah. That just, calms my spirit. But
I like the synth pad. It's nice.
It's nice. It's nice.
It's nice.
But, so I guess there's like two sides to it, like, what do I miss when I'm playing worship, and what do I miss when I'm like on the other side of it, when I'm listening. And I've noticed when I'm playing, or when I think about, what else do I want to do? What kind of group do I want to play with again? I don't I can't think of anything. And I'm totally not it sounds weird to say, but I really miss it doesn't sound weird to say, but whatever, I just miss how we flowed. Where it had some edge. It was allowed to get heavy and intense, and that type of emotion wasn't shied away from. And I was free with my musical choices. Like I played way too many notes compared to what's on any worship record today. You know what I mean? Like, I play way too many notes, but it just, it only worked because that's the environment. Like, it was that setting. If I go and play at a church today and try to do that stuff, it's like, no, dude, that it doesn't work.
Have you tried that? Do you play for church?
Dude, I have the worst, most embarrassing story.
I want to hear this.
We
all want to hear this.
This is the good stuff.
I played for this church, and this was back in the Cinder Hill days, but, would be home, and I'd kind of play different places. And it was a bigger church. It paid well, and it was a gig that I wanted to keep, And I have friends that are in this band, so it should be like not hard for me to get a repeat call. And I get the call, so I go and I play, and I don't hear from them for years. Years. And now I talked to the MD several years later, and he's like, yeah, dude, even the percussion player, he told me, hey, tell the drummer he got the gig already, man. He doesn't need to keep working for it. Because I would just play so many notes, like I was trying to, impress somebody. Yeah. So, anyways.
Yep. That's why we like metal. Because in metal, if you're not doing that, it's like, dude, you need to, what's wrong with you? Like, everything is 16th notes. Everything.
Right.
That's the bass line. Then you jump to 30 seconds, and now
30
you're...
30 seconds? Yeah. That's amazing.
I disagree with that sentiment, though. I know what you're saying, but the thing that people liked about Ascend the Hill is that you guys had a message that everyone could relate to. Everyone had heard the message in church before, and they said, oh, I like this message. This resonates with me. I believe this. And then underneath of that was this creative credibility, which was like, these guys are actually doing this the way they want to do it, and they're excelling at it in their own way. And even though it's like choppy, and you were doing gospel chops when I wasn't seeing anyone on tour doing that, and most of the people in the room had no idea what you were doing, or maybe even that you were there, because that's just sort of the way it goes. But Joel and just the whole unified band was doing something that had authenticity. And I think that to downplay that would be a disservice to anybody that's playing music with like a conviction. You guys had conviction with the way that you played, and I think I think people admired that about you. And I think to your point about, overplaying, I think that is something that should be talked about in church for sure. Because obviously that's pointing more towards you instead of the point of worship, which is obviously not us. But I would encourage you, if you're listening to this, to maybe stretch your parameters a little bit and check out Ascend the Hill, and check out what that kind of worship sounded like or sounds like, because I think maybe we all need a little bit of stretching from time to time, and Ascend the Hill did just that, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I could say for me, I mean, it was worship that I needed in a time where I just had such a distaste for worship music.
Right.
Like I wanted to listen to worship music, but I couldn't listen to that same
Synth.
4 chords
Synth,
over
man.
and over and over again for 2 hours. It was like, and you guys just brought this refreshing take on worship, and it was fulfilling, and it was musically interesting, and it was just, it was awesome.
Thank you, man.
Yeah.
I miss the flow, the openness that, like, we'd have some structure for sure, but it was like there was freedom for us to just flow with
Worship.
the Spirit and
Yeah.
worship. Like if like stuff that I would play, the goal was that it was coming out of me. You know what I mean? It was true worship, even if it was a bunch of notes.
Yeah.
Were the songs structured, sort of, and then you guys would just, seriously? So,
100.
See,
yeah.
it didn't sound like that at all. It was like, as I was watching, it's like, oh, they've played it this way every single time. But you're saying it wasn't like that. You would just improv your way through parts.
I'm sorry. I thought I was agreeing with a different part of your question. Yeah, it was structured until a certain point.
Okay.
And then it was free game.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah, that's really cool.
I miss
That's
it.
awesome.
But I think, as far as the authentic thing in worship these days, man, that's interesting. When you have a band too, maybe this is another factor. When you have a band that's together, a unified group, that you're doing you're doing the same songs all the time, right? Even if they are worship songs, you're a lot more on the same page. You're unified. Your eyes are off the page, if you will, of looking at the music, because it's so digested.
Right.
Your mind and heart's able to be kind of in a different spot than just making sure you get this or that, transition. So that's probably a different aspect than what happens normally on Sundays at any given church. I know then what happens to me when I get I just played at a different at a church this Sunday, which I normally don't. I'm at the same church every Sunday, but anyways, I hadn't played these songs before, so it was to engage on a deeper level than what I was playing. Not that necessarily needs to happen, for the record, but to engage in my heart a little bit different. I wasn't really able to do, because I'm focused on nailing,
Sure.
Yeah.
So
playing the song right.
Yeah, okay. So muscle memory. So with Ascend the Hill, you guys had this ability to just play the songs. You played them a whole bunch of times, and that gave you freedom to play from this place of maybe the Holy Spirit's leading you. Maybe it's just this newfound creativity. Do you feel like a lot of worship bands today that are playing because they don't have that luxury of, I've played the song 150 times this year, that it could be an advantage to know the song so well that you could sort of sit back and maybe let the Holy Spirit work through your playing for God's glory? Or do you think that maybe there's more freedom in going into it as a proficient musician, having never played the song before, and just seeing where it goes?
Oh man, there's probably good things about both of those.
Yeah.
I think more definitely knowing the song. I mean, if I compare it to what we had we knew the song, but we also knew each other. We knew what, we could have a musical conversation or music, we could engage with each other,
Right.
and we trusted each other. And it got to the point, as everyone knows, and if you've experienced this, you don't have to look at the other person for like when we're going to drop down out of that intense moment to just kind of something soft. Like, it's just, we all know it's coming here, even though it's 16 bars later than normal, or 32, because you're just flowing,
Right.
that type of thing. I think churches definitely today experience that. So it's not like only reserved for the same 4 guys or 5 guys in a band. I don't know, man. It's so nuanced with those two.
Yeah.
The two sides
two
of what you
dynamics.
said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So sticking on the church topic, I think this is a really interesting direction. So in Ascend the Hill, you obviously played at a bunch of different churches all around the country, a bunch of different venues, festivals. How has that influenced your perspective on the Big C Church? And for those of you listening, that I mean that by not just your hometown church or like a group of people that meet at the same building every Sunday, but the church as a whole, the Big C, everybody that makes up the body of Christ. How has seeing different churches, how they function, how they operate, how they treated you as the worship team leading worship for them, how has that changed your perspective on the church?
It's a good question. I think, man, like the more I can reflect on those times, and that's its own conversation, but the more I can do that now, I can just say that people are funny, and people they're different, man.
Yeah.
It's interesting. It's in different cities, but it's in different countries for sure. But it's in the same city, just down the street. Like Saturday, I played at one church that was super charismatic, like all flow. Sunday, I was in a church that was like, okay, we all know that worship is going to be 17 minutes and 14 seconds long, and yeah, it is just it is almost like culture shock.
Yeah.
But I think it's just trying to be objective as possible is something that I'm learning now, and to not deem one as good more so than the other, good or evil, or they're serving different roles, if anything.
Yeah. Right.
Where the question then quickly for me moves to, where do I stand with it?
There you go.
What do I believe? What do I take from this? What do I take from that? What should I not take from this? Because that, or what should I not take from that?
Yeah.
But yeah, so I guess the overview answer is the church is weird, just like people are weird. Like, it's just a hodgepodge, man, and weird in a good way. It's a colorful thing. It's like, yeah.
I like that. So to put you on the spot, how does that affect your faith, or what does faith look like for you now? You're not playing in Ascend the Hill. You're playing on your worship team at church occasionally. How has that gotten you to where you are now?
Dude, that is its own conversation.
I know. I'm lobbing these at you, man.
No, it's great. It's great.
I'm sorry.
It's great. I think for me, my relationship with God, my relationship with Jesus is hugely important, and is an everyday thing. My faith is very important to me. But for me, it's an interesting faith. I guess an interesting. From the outside, it could look weird. I deal with something that's called scrupulosity. I don't know if you guys know what that is. It's
Can you spell that for us?
Scrupulosity is actually, it means the inability to spell confusing words. No.
By definitional. Well, hold on a second. Let's just do something fun here. Tim, can you guess what that word means?
Oh boy.
Oh my gosh.
Actually, I thought Jonathan's definition was accurate. I didn't think he was joking for the first few seconds there.
So
sorry, Jared.
No, it's good. It's good. Scrupulosity is a form of OCD that is obsessed with scruples. So, like, your scruples are like morals and stuff like that. So, how that affects OCD. Everyone knows the typical obsessive compulsive stuff like washing your hands or locking a door a bunch of times. For me, my compulsion typically is to go pray, is to go try and do a lot of these things that on the outside seem very religious and pious and good, but for me they come from kind of a weird place, right? So I didn't know a lot of that when I was in Ascend the Hill. I didn't know. I knew something was off, but I would just feel like, I mean, dude, there were times when we would be doing worship, and this is kind of getting candid, but like we'd be playing, and I'm doing my best to just worship, and even in that statement alone, you can kind of see the problem. It's like, what do you mean doing your? Why are you trying? You just there is no try. You just do. But like so. Oh, I remember one time specifically, I was just in it so much in my head, that after we got done, dude, I mean, it's a church service too. We play the last note, and I run straight to the bathroom, and I'm just like in tears because I'm so occupied in my mind. Faith was, and things of the Spirit were so important, but it was on a compulsory level. So it got pretty heavy, often, and pretty unhealthy. So I've had to learn how to navigate that throughout the years, man. And so my faith journey is like really just that. And some days I'm good at it, some days I'm not. Like ups and downs. But that's kind of that's kind of my relationship with God in a nutshell. It's just like, dude, I take it day by day, and I'm trying to get closer to Him, but also doing I'm very conscious of that I've thought things were healthy when they weren't healthy. It's not okay to pray for 8 hours a day. You don't need to fast. You don't need to do a 40-day fast or whatever every 2 weeks, which doesn't make sense, but you see what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like,
right.
So the math doesn't really work out on that. But yeah, man. So my faith journey is a little different, and challenging at times. But I know God is good. I know Jesus is. I rest more in the fact that He is so much more real than my ideas of Him or any sensory experience I can have. He's beyond that. He's more real than that. So I don't need to rest in those things. Even if things are confusing, okay, He's bigger than that. It's all good, and that's kind of where I'm at right now, man. I try to spend time with Him every day and not let it become too much of not occupy too much space, honestly.
Sure.
But if somebody said that, like, I try not to give God too much space, it'd be like, dude, what? That doesn't that doesn't sound right, you know. But for me, that's kind of the healthier thing that I can do.
That's great. It's
Yeah.
very
That makes
subjective.
sense.
I mean, here's
Yeah.
the thing: Jesus was the greatest counselor of all time. He would he would ask a question to, if he were to be standing face to face with you and you were to say, "What do I need to do to follow you?" His response to you would be so different than what it would be towards me or towards Tim or someone
Right.
listening. Because if my walk with God is so different from yours that the idols in my life are different than the idols in yours, and he needs to counsel that out of us and direct us
Yeah.
towards what's important, so that he's the one standing in front of us, not these other things. And so as I hear you talking, I hear a lot of good coming out of your mouth. Actually, I know that it's been difficult at times for you, but
Yeah.
I think it can be helpful to a lot of our listeners in just realizing that everybody has a different way of handling their faith. And for you, as it turns out, it's not like it is for me. It's not like it is for them. It's so different. And as you look at what Jesus said to people, it's shocking. You were talking just now, and it just made me think of Jordan Peterson, who's
Yeah, man.
yeah, you're familiar with Jordan Peterson. Okay.
Absolutely.
So what he doesn't like being asked, "Are you a Christian?"
Right.
It's really unsettling to him, and I feel like some of the notion that he has in his response to that question, I hear a little bit of it in you, and it's something we talk about on the show pretty often. Tim and I talk about this awe and wonder. There's no "of course I am" about being a Christian. There's just
Right.
not.
Yeah.
It's an impossibility to say, well, of course I'm a Christian, because obviously that points towards this fact that
Right.
you've done something to merit this, to warrant
Right.
this salvation. And your response after playing a worship set with your band, where, as you said, you're trying to worship God, attempting, struggling, battling, working towards that, is to go and just break down in tears and almost think to yourself, have I done enough? I think that there's
Right.
truth in that, and I think that we all have a lot to learn from that. How can it be that we have been given salvation? How can it be? I mean, there's no other response that I see fitting other than that. If we look at the Bible, what does it say when someone meets God? The person that gets in is the person who says, there's no way I deserve that. But if it's true, then forever and ever and ever, I will follow you. The person who doesn't get in is the person that says, well, of course. They finish playing the show, the worship set, and they sit there and they sort of, sit up straight and look around. And I mean, this is kind of, I feel like I'm more in that category, honestly, just talking about being candid. I'm the dude sitting there like, all right, did what I needed to do. Feel pretty good about myself. I
Yeah.
mean, I think
that's-
I'd rather be the guy in the bathroom breaking down as much as it
No.
hurts. It's
Well, and that's the thing. Like, and when I talk about this randomly, it can sound like it's tough because the bad things, the unhealthy things, sound like good things, but they're unhealthy because not the things of themselves, but the motivation behind them. So it looks pious, but it's not pious.
yeah, I like that.
Yeah,
And that's
and
100%
so-
true. Your motivation, where's your heart in it?
Yeah, where it's coming from.
And you know
Right.
that, and I
Yep.
don't. But from the outset, I think we all have a lot to learn from that. I really do.
Absolutely.
I think there's so much to learn from that.
Yeah. And I think too, like worship it's not a simple subject just to say worship music and everyone understands automatically what worship music is, because it's like there's so many purposes for it. Even biblically speaking, it talks about there's praise, there's like thankfulness, there's praising God for who he is and what he's done. And if you look at the Psalms, that's worship. David's literally crying out, asking God why. That is worship. There's like battle, like they worship in battle. It's like, so when I've been in worship services where I literally felt like I was in a battle.
Yeah.
Whatever was going on in that room, I was sensitive enough to it to know, like, this is not just a fun, good old worship service at a church. You know, this is war. You know, so like,
Wow, that's
I think your experience is, well, you know, first off, thank you for sharing that, because I think it's so relevant to probably what a lot of our listeners have experienced, and it's very relevant to what we talk about quite often, which is, you know, it might look good. You know, that's what we've seen the problem with religion is that it looks good, you know, it follows the rules, but at the end of the day, it's what Jesus fought. He came and he broke down the Pharisees. He broke down, you know, he was in constant battle with what the law was saying, because it's not what it's about. It's not about the law. It's about relationship. It's about what Jesus came to do. But anyway, I'm stealing the conversation.
Oh, it's great. It's great.
Don't want to go down that hole.
So, Jonathan, growing up, getting old, however you want to say it, it's been a long time since I've seen you, since we've talked. Lots happened between then and now. What do you wish someone would have told you as a teenager back when you started to Ascend the Hill? What do you wish someone would have told you then that you know now, years and years later?
Oh man, something that I'm still learning, that it's okay to be you. And that is for me. That's not necessarily for everyone. You know, like that's, and I mean that in the sense of why I wish that I would have known that before, is that so that I would stop trying to be someone else. Meaning like, be holy, be perfect. I can't have this desire because, you know, I used to, like, every action used to have to be deemed okay by God in order for me to do it. Because my desire, you know, that's with the core belief of thinking that what I want isn't okay, you know? So yeah, I wish I would have known that years ago.
That's great. I can relate to that.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, that's great. That's a good answer. So I guess we'll bring it back to drums for a little bit.
So you play drums.
Yeah.
So you play drums, right?
You play a little bit.
What you know? So right now, you know, what's the newest, coolest, favorite thing that you've been learning or messing around with on the drums?
Okay, so two things. And this, I don't know, you guys might not think this is cool, but for some reason, posture and ergonomic ness, whatever, is like been my world right now. I'm just learning that I sit way too far back or forward on the stool, learning how to get my weight just, and I know, Matt, you know what I'm talking about, because you're, I wish I had your posture, dude. Like,
Jonathan, please don't make fun of me, at least on our show. Wait till afterwards. My God.
It's like, is he sitting or is he standing? I don't know.
I think those things are cool. Tim, do you think those things are cool?
They're pretty good.
Nah, Tim doesn't think so. I do. Tim's just.
But dude,
this is how I drum.
right.
So
if you can't see what Tim just did, you need to see it. It will be a meme.
Yeah, go and watch us on YouTube.
Just for that.
Flailing is the word.
I flail.
Yeah.
That was my goal learning drums, though. I was like, how do I make this look as hard as it possibly could look?
Travis Barker.
How far up can I get my cymbals and my hi-hats?
Right.
I've lowered them a lot in my
old age.
I like that,
though. I think you look cool.
But
I mean, Travis Barker looks awesome when he plays. Is that motion is it necessary? No, of course not.
No.
It's not necessary at all. But it does look cool sometimes.
It's sort of like Tiger King. Like, Tiger King was 100% a waste of time and 100% must see. Like, you need to see that, but no, you shouldn't watch it. It's completely worthless. Like, you have to see it. I mean,
you have to see it. Please watch it.
So I look like Tiger King. That's what we've decided here.
Less criminal.
A little less criminal, yeah.
But yes,
what I'm doing
yes,
is
you
not
do.
a crime.
Dude, I like that stuff because when it clicks, like I'm able to play the stuff that I want. That's why I think it's so cool. So besides that, a buddy of mine, Matt Pointer, who's a local drummer, he plays for this kind of pop reggae band called the Hip Abduction, and I didn't try to or intend on plugging his band, but there it is. They're awesome.
Go check him out.
He's a phenomenal drummer, but he passed along this exercise to me. I think it's some version of what Benny Greb has done, but he's playing groups of 5 between his kick and his left hand.
Nice. That sounds like Matt Garska.
Right.
Yeah.
And then kind of doing some set rhythms, groups of accents in 5, accents in 3, and accents in 7 with his right hand.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
While keeping that ostinato between the kick and the left hand. And I've just been digesting that for a little bit. And I love, and I haven't done independent
I like
stuff
that
like
stuff
that.
too, dude. That's what lights me up.
Yeah,
the
man.
Thomas Lang stuff.
Yeah.
Like the
Dude,
kick snare, kick snare, snare, kick snare, kick snare, snare, grouping of 5, and then you do like
Right. Yeah. And
Yeah.
I can't do it.
4 hours
But
later.
I love it. Yeah, exactly. But that's kind of what I've been
Nice.
nerding out on lately.
That's cool. I like that.
Yeah, man.
That's great.
Love that. Yeah.
What is something that everybody listening to this should try to work on at home, or should try to expand their parameters with? Is there something that in your drumming career that when you found it or when you practiced it, it really just like blew open a new horizon for you?
There's a couple of those.
Yeah.
Honestly, but the subdivision scale.
Okay.
And like a scale C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, but the subdivision scale. So it's the way that the whole note is divided, right? The subdivisions, and so you go up through that. Learning those, and then doing certain exercises with those, so that you're hearing the offbeats, and what you end up doing is getting an awareness of the space
Right.
between what you play,
Right.
so that you play what you're playing more intentionally and more on, because you hear the space in between those notes evenly. And man, those exercises, various exercises with that, has really helped me. I think Jojo Mayer has some that deal with that.
Yeah, he's pretty good
Yes.
at drums.
Yeah, he's okay. He should come out with a DVD or several.
Yeah. So playing into that, this is something that I want to know from you in particular, because we kind of we have a lot in common as far as our career when we started playing, our touring history, and just I think our outlook on drumming in particular. So let's create a strictly hypothetical scenario here. Let's say you were starting to play drums today. Like today.
Starting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You were just picking up sticks for the first time.
Yeah.
Just
2020 during COVID.
Just imagine that. Picking up sticks, you
Stuck
want
at
to try
home.
this thing. You've never played drums before. And you go on, let's say you go on YouTube, and you're like, all right, drum lessons, and you see Drumeo, and you see Mike's lessons, and all these great educational resources at literally the tip of your fingertips. Like,
Right.
they're
right.
just all right there. You push enter, and you have access to all these free lessons. And then for very cheap, you can learn anything.
Right.
How do you think it would affect you differently having those resources available to you, so readily available to you, if you started
Wow.
today versus let's say we went back and we
Right.
look at how
Right.
we learned, what do you think it would have done for your drumming, positive or negative? Have you thought about
Dude,
that
that's
at
Good
all?
question.
I have not thought about that. That is a great question. I think positively, like, think about it like I just had a baby girl, right? She's 2.5,
Congratulations.
almost 3 months. Thank you. And she will know how to use an iPhone perfectly before she's 1 year old. You know what I mean? Like there's a positive side to that somehow.
Yeah.
Like she's using different parts of her brain and she's more skilled. She's more technically analytical,
Yeah.
trained at a young age than I was. So I think there's, in the same way, all that information, like the new generation is getting affected.
Yeah.
For sure, in a positive way because of all that information out there. Boundaries are getting pushed for sure. But I think a negative side, like, and I'm a drum teacher and I teach beginners, so I don't want to shoot myself in the foot here.
Okay.
But I wouldn't want to start any different than I did, which was turn on a Fred Hammond CD and just jam to it. And just listen and try to mimic what I hear, And
Yep.
so I wouldn't trade that for all the information on YouTube. So it's kind of like, I think there's something that you can't teach in that sense.
100% true. It's of course 100% true. There's something about the struggle. There was something about the struggle. That blood, sweat, and tears that went into practicing. It still happens today. I'm not negating that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying human nature is attracted to structure. What is it that you have that got you to where you are that I can pay for and have access to? Seriously. And it's like, it's like, no. It's not how it worked. Like, I've been doing this for a long time. Like, I didn't just happen upon this and just like figure it out. Spring tension, beat or distance from the head. You know what I mean? You can go down through the list. It's like, that would be nice if there was something like that, except for the fact that it would be a nightmare because everyone would be exactly the same and skilled equally.
Exactly right.
I mean, so it's like, I love the way you answered that. I like having this conversation because I wish that.
What do you think, man?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm 100% on board with you.
Yeah.
Yep.
Man, such an interesting, because it's like I watch YouTube.
So do I.
I watch these videos, like.
And we're both teachers. I mean, all three of us play drums. All three of us do what we're talking about. But I'm saying we're 15 years into drumming and we're doing that. Yeah, so imagine going back to the very beginning and having that sort of structure and resource availability. It would change the game for us.
I mean, have you guys had the moment where you have to stop learning or like watching other, like trying new things? Like, have you had that moment?
It's never gonna happen.
Okay. Well, no,
it's never gonna happen.
For me, like I've had to stop because I just will just keep watching the new thing, and it's like, dude, I still can't play it 50 beats per minute with like this triplet thing that I learned in high school. It's like, why can't you still just do that?
Why can't you do that?
Why can't you do this?
Just work.
Yeah, I mean.
So I guess that excess of information isn't always the best.
No.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's a really good point.
No.
Yeah.
And it's funny, like, so Matt and I have talked about this before. We both started taking lessons for a very short amount of time. Matt stopped because he wasn't learning the things he wanted to learn the way he wanted to learn it. I stopped because I was afraid that, like, I was into hard rock and pop punk.
Yeah.
And I was learning jazz.
Right.
Nothing against, like, I love my teacher. Yeah. He was great. He set me up perfectly. He got me on a pad. Like, thank God for that. Taught me to start on a pad. Yeah. But I stopped because I didn't want it to influence my style, So there's like all these different,
Right.
But I'm right there with you. Like, I don't know if I would change anything because I wouldn't be me. I wouldn't be the drummer I am.
Yeah.
If I was on Drumeo nonstop for that, the 5 core years of really learning
I mean,
drums,
I guess the case study here will be in 10 years, where will drumming be? Yeah. Because Drumeo has created this environment in which there's so much accessibility to content and resources from... I would imagine they're in the hundreds of instructors, right? They're definitely in the dozens.
I don't know, man.
You go through the list of teachers. I mean, it looks endless in the ads.
Wow.
And so you go through that and you say, okay, well, you can learn anything from anybody, all of those teachers have been teaching for a long time and practicing on their own. So everything they're bringing to the table, they've developed internally, and now they're giving to you. So that's information that you can then work into your own style.
So valuable.
10 years from now, are we going to have drummers that all sound like everybody else? Are we going to have drummers that sound like robots?
I see what you're saying. Right.
What's the trajectory of drumming? Because obviously Drumeo and just the culture of YouTube is creating this environment where drumming it's very easy to get into. It's easy to learn beginner beats. It's easy to learn how to 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, 9, 10, right? And you and I we didn't really have that sense of structure. We just sort of said, okay, I love drumming. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. Let's see where this goes, you know?
Yeah.
Dude, yeah, and that uniqueness, that individual sound. I mean, everybody has influences, and we all assimilate from those influences. Even if, all we had was VHS tapes, it's like some drummer in our town, we wanted to sound like him, so we kind of played a little bit him.
Yep.
But when there's so much influence, it's like, what happens? Yeah.
Yep.
I almost wonder if, like, because you're always gonna have the Mike Mitchells, the Matt Greiners, these guys. No, dude, I'm serious. But like,
Thomas Bridges, Matt Garskas, Luke Collins. Yeah. There are so many other names above the one you just chose. I mean, so many.
No, man.
But they don't have a website.
They don't have a podcast called Holy Ghost.
Holy Ghost Notes.
They don't have a drum. They don't have a drum podcast either. It's true.
It's my one accolade. No, I appreciate that. I mean, it's interesting. I think it's a conversation we should be having. I really think that those listening to this should seriously ask themselves, to your point earlier, like, what is it that someone could have told you earlier that might have saved you some grief? It's okay to be me. Like,
what do you want to sound like?
Yeah, what are you going to sound like? Like, who do you want to be? I want to be Aaron Spears too, but he already exists. And I will never be able to play like him, so I'm chasing the wind. But I'm not actually chasing the wind if I'm doing what is right here, that unfortunately I always feel like I need affirmation for. If you can't see where I'm pointing, it's to my heart. It's not somewhere else, okay? It's not. But seriously, I mean, I took drum lessons because I wanted affirmation. We've talked about this before. I wanted someone to tell me I was doing a good job. Seriously. And when I realized that no one was going to tell me that, actually, in fact, people were going to tell me, like, you're playing weird like this. This isn't quite right. Why are you leading with your left foot? I realized, wait a second. These people are playing a certain way. I'm already doing it this way, and it's sort of working. Let's see where it goes. I think we all need to take a serious look at that and just, in a weird way, sort of say it's okay to be playing like you are. If you're not hurting your wrists and your arms and your back and your legs, don't worry too much about the technique aspect.
Yeah.
Focus on it a little bit, but it's sort of like, I was teaching a student the other day, and the metaphor I gave was, it's good to know how to shift in a car, like sitting in a parking lot, someone's teaching you how to use the clutch, first gear, second gear, third gear, fourth gear. That's great. That's important, actually. You're going to save your clutch. You're going to get through your gears efficiently. But if you never actually start the car and drive it, what the hell's the point?
Right.
And so technique is the gear shifting, the clutch movement. That stuff is important, but it's only as important as you starting the car and actually going to the grocery store. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And
totally.
I wish someone would have told me that, because I was so concerned about marching drummers who had like perfect technique. I was so concerned with like gospel drummers. It's always the style that you can't play that you're obsessed about. For some dumb reason.
It's true.
It's like,
That's
why?
so true.
Yeah.
Why do we do that?
Dude,
That's so true.
No idea. But it took. I used to be a real technique head too, just with my students, until I started seeing all the greats that I love watching, new guys coming up, and their technique is garbage.
Yeah.
You know, in the traditional sense.
Why are you choked up on the stick so high? That
Right.
makes no sense.
Just like doing this stuff, like, yeah.
Yeah.
Drums are at different angles that, you know, I would never tell a kid to put.
Their cymbals are way up
Yeah.
here.
And they're just absolutely killing it, you
Yeah.
know? And then I think it has more to do with, you know, for them, they were able to. There's an efficiency of motion, like a stick bounces and it's gonna go somewhere. There's a lot of guys that basically you can figure out how to make that happen without it a few different ways, you know. Like, so I think that's would be the most specific. You just want it to feel like this when you hit it. If it needs to have this reaction, but if you do that with your elbow or your, you know, underarm, okay, that's fine.
So, I
Yeah.
mean, obviously, you would be a great teacher because you're not. There's no smoke and mirrors with you. This is Tim's question, but I'm going to ask it. What do people have to do, or how can people learn from you? What are you doing? Are you teaching right now? Do you have a website where your people can sign up?
I have a website with my contact info on it. It's just jonathanthomasdrums.com. Pretty self-explanatory there. And I can, you know, do FaceTime, Zoom lessons.
Nice.
Now that I have figured out how to join a Zoom call, I can do Zoom lessons. But yeah, or in person. And that's pretty much it, man.
Awesome.
It's yeah.
And people can sign up on your
And I gotta
website
say,
too?
No, I don't have that.
Okay, they can email you.
They can email me
Okay.
or my phone number's there. They can reach out.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Directly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And to everyone listening, like, Jonathan is seriously the guy to take lessons from. I actually reached out to you, like 3 years ago before my son was
Yeah,
born, right?
yes.
I reached out to you, was like, dude, I want to set up some lessons. Like, it was like a few weeks later, found out my wife was pregnant. I was like, sorry, man. Not gonna happen.
Not gonna happen.
But I still want to take lessons from you because, like, at this point, I didn't want to take lessons before. I learned stuff myself, taught myself stuff, but then it was your drum parts that I was trying to break down, and I didn't want to just know how to play them. I wanted to know why did you write it
exactly.
this way? How did you write it this
Yeah.
way? What was going through your head? You know, what techniques did you learn? Because my technique is terrible. So I was just like, if there's someone I want to learn from, it's Jonathan. And that's
thank
why
you,
you
man.
have a place in my top 5, because, like, the stuff you play, I still can't comprehend. I still don't fully get my head around how you're doing that and why you're doing
Dude,
that, you know, where it's coming
And
from.
isn't that the funny thing, man? Like, it's all about what you hear. You know what I mean? Like, you have full
Yeah.
facility. I've seen your videos, dude. You can kill it. Like, you're a great player. You have all the
Thank you.
All the elements.
facility, all the elements. You know what I mean? And I
Yeah.
think that's
I'm just not as good at drums as you guys.
no, dude.
I have great
all
lights,
fake.
great kit, great
It is
microphone.
It's all
I
fake.
just can't play.
Have you heard of Beat Detective? It is amazing.
Yeah.
Dude, thank you so much for
Good
coming
stuff,
on our
man.
show, man. It's been
Dude.
a blast. If
Thanks for
if
having
you're a
me.
drummer and you're interested in lessons, please don't hesitate. I know that we poo-poo on drum lessons, and because of that, I feel like we have some space to say, take some from someone who takes it seriously and isn't just out to grab some money.
Yeah.
Like, just take a couple. You don't have to take a ton. Take a couple. Make sure that you can, work them into your playing. And at the very least, we just hope you enjoyed this conversation we had with a good old pal.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for having me, guys. It was awesome.
Thank you so much,
Appreciate
man.
you.
Yeah. Thanks so much,
Blast.
dude.
All right.
Yeah.
Take care.
There was a pit deep down inside of me, a need revealed by laws I could not keep. And its demands had put a curse over my head and blinded me with shame I could not see.
Okay, so I hope you guys enjoyed our episode, our time with Jonathan Thomas. he is, as we said, a special guy. A lot of good things. Just a lot of good insight. I remember seeing him play for the first time, as we talked about in the episode. James from Life in Your Way told me I need to watch this guy. I was probably, I don't know, 20. It would have been 2007. So I was 22. Yeah, I was 22. I was young drummer, touring for 2 or 3 years. And I think he was the first guy that played like a gospel drummer, played those gospel chops, really linear fills. Long before I found out more about gospel chops and figured out how to play some of those orchestrations and stickings. And as it turns out, that's just his style. It's not that he was like learning that from somebody else. It's his take on playing drums and playing along with a band.
Yep.
And I guess I didn't really realize that until we talked about it in this episode. So what were your takeaways from this episode, Tim? Well,
I thought it was a great conversation. It wasn't just an interview. This was a conversation. He's a very critical thinker, I noticed, which in all of my conversations with him, I never fully got that, but he's a very critical thinker, and I think his playing shows for it. He's got such skill on the kit, and
that's a good point.
Everything has a purpose. I know he was saying that, he plays a lot of notes, but what I want to add to that is he plays the right notes. There's people that are really showy and just go off and do drum solos. This guy plays a lot of notes tastefully. What he plays is different and it's unique and it catches your attention, but it doesn't pull you away from the music. It adds to the song. And that's what's important. There's a lot of drummers out there that, like Matt said, Jonathan's a drummer's drummer, but there's a lot of drummers. I'm going to start having like a
cyclical conversation.
Say this 5 times fast. There's a lot of drummers that are too showy. You can't stick them behind a band, because they're not giving the song what it needs. It's a big drum solo. It's just flashy, and it's cool, and it's hard to play, and there's something impressive about it. But at the end of the day, they're not going to be able to play behind a band because they don't know how to scale it back, how to play in that pocket. And
the singer's like, "Where's the one? I can't find the one. You never hit the one with the kick drum.
Is there even a one? What is the number one?" And he's not that drummer, so it was cool. But I also really appreciated what he had to say about his faith, and how he opened up about about how he approaches his faith. And I think that a lot of us listening can relate. I can relate. I was thinking like, maybe I have this word that I can't pronounce, whatever it was I said. Maybe I have this, because he was describing tendencies that I've had, and so I think he had a lot of good things to say, and I hope that you all learned a lot on the drum side, but also on the spiritual faith side, because I think he had a lot of good to say on both topics. So
yeah, it's cool to see someone who years ago was touring, and we were sort of intersecting at Christian festivals and here and there, and just years later to catch up. We haven't talked in a decade, and just within an hour, I feel like we caught up, and I know him all over again. Maybe for the first time, really. We didn't really talk all that much before. He, like you said, he's a critical thinker.
Yeah.
And I think my biggest takeaway is who you are as a person is inseparable from who you are as a drummer. And if you find that you're separating who you are as a person from who you are as a drummer, you're probably doing yourself a disservice, in that is what makes you a good drummer, not what disqualifies you from playing drums. The more, to his point actually, the more you are okay with just being yourself, good and bad, pros and cons, quirks and all, that's the kind of look and skill and charisma that adds to your drumming and really amplifies your sound. And I think we need to think more about that.
Yeah.
It's not that you sit down at a kit and pick up a pair of sticks and say, okay, now I'm going to play. It's like, well, you're still the same you that you were 10 minutes before when you were eating lunch and on the phone with your buddy. Like now you're just sitting down and it's an extension of who you are.
Yeah.
And I like the way that he talked about that. He's a personable personality. I think many who will listen to this will relate to a lot of what he said.
Yeah.
And hopefully will be edified
Yeah.
by the points that he made.
Yeah, definitely. So if you guys haven't heard his music, definitely go check out Ascend the Hill. You can check him out on Instagram at Jonathan Thomas Drums. He actually does, I don't know if he does it now that has a new daughter, but for a while there, he was actually doing Instagram Live drum lessons for anyone who wanted to hop on, and they were free. And they were incredible. I jumped on a few. So definitely check him out on Instagram. Check out his website, jonathanthomasdrums.com. He's very reachable. So if you're interested in taking lessons, he is, if you're interested, he'll reach back out. So definitely take him up on that. And I think the other band he was in was Civilian, which we didn't really talk about in the episode, but check their stuff out too, because it's actually really good. And it shows his ability to really play in the pocket and give the song what it needs. So check out Ascend the Hill and Civilian at Jonathan Thomas Drums, and go give him a shout and definitely show him some love and let him know what you thought of this episode. I know he'll appreciate it. So.
Good stuff, man. Good stuff.
Yeah. So I guess wrapping it up, we'll Matt, do you want to take a stab at closing out the interview? Do you think you can do it?
Like the word that starts with P and ends with "ease"?
No. All of our plugs.
I don't know.
We have to end the interview. It's okay.
I can't
I'll
do
it.
that,
I'll
man.
do it.
I mean, we've only done like 33 episodes.
This is only the 33rd episode. It's all right. Well, you guys are you probably already turned off this episode because you know what we're going to say now. I was hoping to change it up, but.
And Tim's going to say it.
And now you know I'm going to say it. Hey, we have a Patreon. Check it out. Patreon.com/HolyGhostNotes. It's really cool. You can sign up for different tiers and there's incentives. One of them being access to MattGrinderLessons.com. Access to Adam Gray's lessons, and our really awesome kick-ass community group, The Inner Circle. Check it out. That is patreon.com/HolyGhostNotes. Also, there's more.
I couldn't have said any of that, so I'm glad.
Hashtag Holy Ghost Notes. Hashtag Holy Ghost Notes, because we post a Groove of the Week every single week, and we love featuring your videos. So make sure you're posting drum videos on Instagram and using the hashtag Holy Ghost Notes. Pretty cool. If you guys have questions, concerns, anything at all to say, comments, critiques, want to get in touch with us, you can reach out, Matt and Tim, at theholyghostnotes.com, or if you want a quick response, which is probably what most of you want, reach out on Instagram. You'll hear back much faster. And yeah, we've been doing some really cool devotionals. If you haven't seen, they're up on our website, theholyghostnotes.com. We're calling them Peace Devotions. And we are just finishing up Mark chapter 3. I think we just finished up Mark chapter 3. I think we're like 21 or 22 devotionals in. So it's been awesome. Check that out. And that's all I got.
Now it's my turn.
Now it's your turn.
Starts with P, ends with East. Say it with me.